Hello, welcome back to the OTB channel. First of all, can I just give you all an apology for not posting a video yesterday. It was my last day at work before the Christmas break, so I've saved up my leave. I've got 2.5 weeks off, and Friday ended with our work's Christmas do, which went on till the early hours. So I wasn't perhaps feeling on top form yesterday, so I thought I'd give it another day and post today. Secondly, for those of you who aren't in the UK, you've probably seen on the news an awful lot has been happening in the UK in terms of politics, and I spent a day sat in front of YouTube just catching up with everything that had gone on. But anyway, I'm now on holiday, so I'm feeling quite buoyant and thinking about what I would do. It's something that I've been intending to do for a while, and I'll be honest, I've been avoiding it a little bit. A few of my subscribers have asked me to do a KDE Plasma review, and some of them have even said, try KDE Plasma, give it a go. I think on my 40-odd videos that I've produced, there's only been one desktop that had Plasma, and I can't for the life of me off the top of my head think which one that was. Might have been OpenSUSE, but I've never really dug into it. I decided it was time that I should. And I'm going to look at Kubuntu. Not because I particularly want to look at one of the Ubuntus or one of the flavours of Ubuntu, simply because I wanted to look at the KDE Plasma Desktop, and it's out there, it's popular, a few people have mentioned it by name, and I thought it was probably a good vehicle to use to look at KDE. KDE and GNOME are the two big beasts of the Linux desktop. It's probably less the case these days than it was, but when I started using Linux 15, 16 years ago, 2004, wow, time's getting on, KDE and GNOME, that was what generated all the debates. Do you use KDE? Do you use GNOME? I swapped and changed initially between both. But when we had the transition from KDE moving across to KDE 4, big paradigm shift, and GNOME 2 moving across to GNOME 3, both of these big beasts went through a period of certainly uncertainty and a little bit more instability than we'd associated with either of those desktops. And many of us, certainly myself, decided to abandon both. I personally moved to XFCE, and for many years never looked at GNOME or KDE again. So I thought, why not? Let's have a look at the KDE desktop. And for the sake of disclosure, what I would say before I go and look at this is I have never liked the look of Qt apps. It's not anything to do with their functionality. I just don't like the look and feel of Qt or Qt. I have always much preferred the GTK look. That is a completely subjective view. It has nothing to do with how usable either desktop or any particular app is. It is all about just how I feel about it. And in this day and age, when there are very few Linux distributions out there that you would describe as bad, they're all pretty excellent. Linux is in a great place at the moment. Look and feel have become even more important. We use the distribution that we like the look of, that there is that word, isn't there, that suits our workflow. And after package management, or perhaps even before package management, look and feel has become what it's all about. So without further ado, Let's dive into the Kubuntu installation. I'm going to show the installation to start off with very quickly. I don't expect that to be radically different from a standard Calamaris install of any other distro, and then we'll poke around on the desktop and see what I think. I'm coming at this almost as a brand new non-Linux user. I am not used to the KDE desktop. I don't know where anything is. So my first impressions will all be based upon, where is this? What does this do? How do I move this? How do I change this? Oops. And I'll give a commentary as I go along. So let's get into it. So you should see the Kubuntu desktop in front of you. We'll go through it in a second, but let's just see what the installation's like. I've installed it on VirtualBox. I've booted into the live ISO, which gave me the opportunity to try Kubuntu or just do an install directly. I've given the virtual operating system 2 threads of my i5 processor, 8 gig of RAM, and a 30 gig virtual hard drive. So we see a fairly plain, if quite bright desktop with nothing on the desktop other than an install Kubuntu icon, and a little icon's just popped up on the right telling me that I've got updates. Well, I'm not going to apply updates while I'm working on the live virtual machine, so let's just double click Kubuntu and see what happens. I'm expecting to see Calamaris. I've never installed Kubuntu before, but if it's Calamaris, it should be pretty similar to what we're used to. So I've got the installation program up on screen. It's asking me to set the language. Yes, let's go with English. Set my keyboard. Okay, English UK. What do I want? Do I want a normal installation, a minimal installation, i.e. just a web browser and basic utilities? And do I want to install or download updates whilst carrying out the installation? Well, I'm going to go for the normal installation. I'm going to select download updates while installing. And I'm also going to tick the box that says install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi and additional media formats. If you want your installation to be usable, it's a good idea to check this box so that you're not struggling to get your Wi-Fi working when you get your system up and running. So let's press continue. I'm assuming it's now going to take me to the locale. No, it hasn't. It's taken me straight to the partitioning screen. What do I want to use? Guided, where I use the entire disk. Do I want to set up LVM? Do I want to set up encrypted LVM? Now, I'm just going to stick with simplicity here and set up the guided mode. Install now. I get the little prompt telling me that if I continue now, changes are going to be written to the disk. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Aha! And then it's finally come up. Right, my locale, it's picked it correctly, so United Kingdom. And I need to actually add my name here. So let's go with the usual OTB. Pick my password. Type it in again. I do want to require my password to log in, so I'm going to hit continue. And that should be it as far as interaction from me is concerned. What I will do is I will let this get on with the job. It's 12:35 now on this desktop. I will get it working properly under using the guest additions, and we'll come back to the desktop once we're up and running. And we're back. So it was 12:35 when I started the Kubuntu installation. It completed at 12:46. I rebooted and actually didn't need to install the guest editions. It would appear that they're already available. So the desktop booted without a problem. It seemed to install with very little effort. I logged in as OTB. I installed HTOP, and this is what you can see in front of you. It's using 586 meg of RAM, which compared to the big beast days of a decade ago isn't bad at all. In fact, it's almost a lightweight desktop at that. So I'm quite impressed at how they've managed to bring that into something more manageable. Let me just close that window. I have to say, I haven't actually used KDE in any form for, well, 13, 14 years at least, or whenever it was that KDE 3 was overtaken by KDE 4. I was never the greatest fan anyway, and when KDE 4 launched, it went through a little bit of trauma, shall we say, just like when we had the transition from GNOME 2 to GNOME 3. And during those initial years, I must admit I abandoned both desktops and I went to XFCE. But here we have it, the KDE Plasma Desktop. And I have to say, I feel very much like a newbie. I don't know where anything is. I've done the odd review with a KDE desktop, but I've not gone into real detail on it. And I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, right, where do I start? One of the things that struck me immediately is this little widget up here on the top right hand side, which appears to be pretty much of a shortcut to, well, add widgets. What are activities? Let's have a look. Okay, it seems to just list what I'm doing. To lock widgets, to open with Dolphin. Okay, Dolphin being the file manager. Right, so it's pretty much just open Dolphin from what I can see. And to configure my desktop, let's click on that, which gives me access to the wallpaper, the mouse, okay, the desktop folder, show desktop folder, everything's a folder in Linux of course, the icon arrangement, the filter, oh my goodness, right, all the different things that I could see, and tweaks. Now, I've been doing a little bit of reading up, and apparently if I want to get rid of this icon in the top right hand corner, it's called a desktop toolbox, and I would just get rid of it by unchecking those boxes. Lock screen or leave? I'm not so sure. I'm not a great fan of widgets hanging around. If I want to put an icon on the desktop, I'd like to do it myself. But hey, those people who are used to KDE might find this incredibly useful. Let's go back to configure desktop. I just want to do what a new user might do and have a look at the wallpapers that I'm offered by default. And there seems to be a range of colourful wallpapers. Do I just click on it? Oh no, I think I have to click apply. Okay, that's quite nice. I like that. Kokini. Let's have a look at that in real life. Reasonable, I suppose. I think that was the default that we had there. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not that keen on it. I have to say, blue is one of my favourite colours, and I've got my Ubuntu Mate desktop in blue, but it's not the sort of blue I like. How about this one? Eleron. Okay, it's quite nice. I would have to take some time deciding how I'm going to do that. But fine, so we have our KDE Plasma Desktop here. We've established that it uses a fairly low amount of memory, which is great because it will no doubt run on older machines. But how usable is it? Well, we have a panel here at the bottom. It's in a very Windows-like configuration. And if I right-click on that and click Configure Task Manager, okay. The appearance, what do we want? A maximum of 2 rows. How do we want to group the icons? And what are the keyboard shortcuts? I have to say, this is the thing that's always really worried me about KDE, and one of the reasons why I've never been a big fan. And that is that, if we can just get rid of that. No, we don't want to do that. There we go. I've always found that there are a multitude of settings on the KDE desktop. And for a new user, and in this case I'm including myself, it's not immediately obvious where everything is. Unlike for me, something like the Mate desktop, where I go to the control panel, if you like, and everything is there, and to me it makes a lot more sense. Nothing is immediately obvious to me on this desktop. We used to say that if you're a Windows user and you want to use Linux in a way that mimics what Windows is like, you'd use KDE. If you want something different, you would use GNOME or XFCE. I don't actually think that still holds true. I think the desktops of within Linux have now all got their unique look and feel, and we can make them do whatever we want. I had to do a little bit of reading, in fact, to find out how I would just move this desktop, this panel, should I say. And it's not immediately obvious. Quick Google search, though, suggested I go to this icon down here that goes Configure Panel, and I then get all of these widgets. And if I want to move the panel, I apparently click on the screen edge button, and I can then move it wherever I want. Okay, and click and drag the button to resize the panel. I suppose in many ways it's just a case of knowing how you do it, and I'm sure it becomes second nature once you know, but for me it was not obvious how I would move the panel. To the same extent, it was not obvious how I would get rid of what I think of as this annoying widget in the top right, but apparently I just have to go to Configure Desktop and Tweaks. I noticed there is a little entry here on the menu, Add Widgets. Right, so let's just click the analog clock and see what that does. Okay, so, well, I've clicked the analog clock. Where is it? Ah, there it is. And does that just move? Configure analog clock? Appearance? Keyboard shortcuts? I have absolutely no idea how to move this. Isn't that interesting? And this is the problem that I find. Just give me a second and I will figure out how to move a widget on the KDE desktop. Okay, we're back. And a quick Google search later, I found out how to do it. You have to do a long click and then you can drag the widget wherever you want. And presumably I can make it smaller or bigger. Okay, so long click again. We'll stick it up there. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this widget on the top right hand corner. So if I press Tweaks and hit unshow the desktop, apply, and okay, we've got rid of it at last. So yeah, there is a way of doing it. it's about relearning what you do to an extent for someone like me or a new Windows user who has never used the KDE Plasma Desktop. So let's dive into the menu then and see what we've got. I do quite like the menu. I like the fact that it has a searchable bar in the top. I think many of the menus, the Breeze menu, etc., that we use across different desktop environments are quite similar now. So we have a favourites section, an applications section, and what does it come with? Okay, it comes with a couple of educational apps. Any games pre-installed? Yeah, the Mahjong is there. Patience. K-Sudoku, or however you say it, and K-Mines. Okay, nice to have a few options there. What about graphics? LibreOffice Draw, GwenView, Ocular, Scanlight. I'm surprised not to see the GIMP there, but hey-ho, it is what it is. What about internet? Okay, so we've got Firefox there. We've got an RSS feed aggregator. We've got Kmail, the KDE mail application. Remote desktop client, KRDC. Torrent client. Okay. Multimedia. What's there? K3B. Absolutely great disk burning application, but let's face it, CD and DVD ROM drives are becoming less and less these days on modern computers. We have the Pulse Audio volume control, and I'm pleased to see it does ship with VLC Media Player by default, and something called Cantata, which I'm assuming is the KDE default music player. What about Office? I was worrying for 1 minute that it just might be the K or the KDE Office package, K-Organizer, Contact, Kmail, etc. But LibreOffice is there, which is good to see. Settings, I think we'll come to that in a second. And system. Right, there's quite a lot here. HTOP I've installed. Info Center, let's have a look at that. So, information about our system. So it says, yes, I'm using an Intel Core i5. I'm using 7.8 gig of RAM. What's the memory usage? Okay, fairly straightforward. The energy monitor, energy consumption statistics. Well, there's nothing in here at the moment, so I assume this is something that it builds up over time as you're using the desktop. File index monitor. Okay. Device information. All right, that's quite nice. So we can see our processors, our storage devices, any USB devices that are there. Actually, I quite like this. This is a kind of a hardware GUI, if you like, and it can be quite useful to just get a very quick overview. Network information. Okay, so it gives me some information about what I've got, what's up, what my IP address is, and then graphical information. Yeah, I'm using the X server. Am I using Wayland? No, I'm not, and probably never will do if I have my my way. And yeah, a little bit about OpenGL. Okay, quite like that. That's good. Let's have a look what else is, oops, not in settings, in system. We have a partition manager, like gparted, but the KDE version. Console, which is our terminal. K-System Guard. Okay. So this is the KDE version of the GNOME system monitor or the Mate system monitor. And yeah, okay, fairly straightforward. Anything else in the system menu that might be of interest? Startup disk creator. Okay, fine. Let's go to applications again and move down. What have we got in utilities? Okay, so we've got our archive in program called Arc, Kate, which is the KDE text editor, Cleopatra, a certificate manager, fine, KTNEF, a file viewer, proprietary format used by Outlook, okay, interesting, and a screenshot capture utility. Okay, that's good. What else have we got? Just the help center by the look of it. Fine, so it doesn't come badly loaded. Don't forget this is based on an Ubuntu base, so there's plenty of applications that you can install in the repositories. So in the computer we have a run command. Okay, that's quite nice. Saves open in a terminal. What else? Another link to system settings, our information center, which we've already seen. So there seems to be a degree of replication here. And our places menu. And something called Discover, which is, I believe, the KDE Software Center. Okay, I'm not a great lover of software centers personally. I like to use the command line or Synaptic Package Manager. You are, of course, free to install them. I've heard a few criticisms and complaints about Discover, but having never used it myself, it would be unfair to comment. We then have our history section, you know, what have we touched, and leave. What do we want to do? Sleep, restart, shut down. So in a nutshell, this would appear to be our basic KDE desktop, and I've just realised I'm not back in full screen mode, so there we go. It's a nice looking desktop. It feels very alien to me. Do I think that a new Linux user coming across from Windows and having never seen a Linux system before would immediately feel comfortable in it? Well, I'd need to do a little bit of work. Luckily, it's very easy to find answers, but a 15 years Linux user, I'm still thinking, oh, there's a lot to see there. And my big bugbear about KDE has always been the settings menu. And it's not that it's been particularly complicated, but there are just so many settings that you can tweak in KDE to get the system looking exactly how you want. Now, you can see that as a good thing or a bad thing. I love to tweak a system, but there is a nice balance between usability and confusion. So let's have a look. This is our settings menu. My goodness, there's a lot of entries there, but fine. They may all be quite simple to use. So we have a look and feel section. I'm quite a fan of the Dark Breeze theme. Let's just apply that and see what happens. This is the theme that I'm currently using on the Flatpak version of Kdenlive. And to me, this made all the difference. I know it's only about look and feel, but unless the look and feel of a desktop is something that attracts us, well, we're probably not going to use it. So it's simple enough to apply a theme. What about a workspace theme? Okay, so this is about the different, well, I don't know, the icons. Let's go to Oxygen and see what happens there if I press apply. Okay, so it seems to actually apply the themes to even such things as widgets. Quite like that. You can choose your cursors. You can even choose your splash screen or get new splash screens. Let's hit that. Right, so it's obviously got access to online splash screens, and you just click on the one you want and install. Okay, I like that. So the look and feel and workspace themes, all great. Colours. Wow, there's a lot to choose from here, isn't there? You would have thought just applying a theme would sort this out for you, but apparently not. You've got further choices. It's not a criticism as such, this, but I just sort of question, do we need an extra menu item for this? Can't it all just be included in the theme and perhaps we can tweak the theme itself? Just a personal view. Okay, fonts. Okay, so that's pretty much as you would expect. Icons. Multiple icons that you could use. Fine. All good so far. Application style. Okay, our application style is the Breeze style. What happens if I turn that to Fusion? MS Windows? Oxygen? Okay, so a tweak on a tweak. The settings of your current module has changed. I'm just going to discard them. Let's go to the GTK application style. How do I want that to look? Okay, so you can tweak any GTK applications you've got there. I suppose it's a good idea for integration when you're going to be installing GTK applications as well as Qt applications. Then we come down to desktop behavior, the workspaces. Do we want single click to open files? I will never. Sorry, I'm a double click person. Only ever double click. Desktop effects. Wow. Hold on. Zoom, blur, screen edge. Right. This is the sort of thing that drives me mad. Some people will love it. Love it or hate it. It's one of those Marmite things. For me, this is too much. Screen edges. Active screen. Oh, right. Trigger an action by pushing the mouse cursor against the corresponding screen edge. So if I want that, what do I want to do? I don't want any action, really. Okay, let's just put the run command there and apply it and see what happens. So if I go up here, why is that not working? Apply the run command. Trigger, push the mouse cursor against the corresponding edge or corner. Right, go on, I'm pushing it against it. Nothing's happening. Maybe because we're in a virtual machine. Hey, I'm not going to criticize it for that, but I don't really understand how that works. Touch screen, well, I haven't got a touch screen, so there's not much point looking at that. The screen locking, okay, fairly straightforward. Virtual desktops, how many do I want? Okay, that's fine. Activities. Create an activity. I could no doubt find out what that's all about, but again, it's not obvious to me. Windows management. Okay, so this is straightforward. What do I want the mouse to do? What do I want the title bar to do? If I double click it, single click it, etc. Let's go back. Shortcuts. Toggle screen reader on and off. Meta Alt S. The run command. Alt space and F2. Well, let's try Alt space. Okay, so that's how it works. Right, so it's just keyboard shortcuts. Why can't we just call it keyboard shortcuts? Start up and shut down. Okay, that's fine. Search. Not a problem. And then we have a load of stuff on account details. I suppose what I'd say about this, it's not as bad as I remember the KDE settings being. I don't think it's that obvious, and the way it's laid out isn't that user-friendly to my mind. So, yeah, there's nothing there that I would say, absolutely love this, how much I can tweak. And don't get me wrong, I'm a tweaker. I love to tweak. But I'm pretty happy tweaking the Mate system that I currently have. But overall, look, let's come back from this. It's a nice looking desktop. I think anybody switching to this would be more than happy with their choice. They might have to do quite a few Google searches to figure out how it actually works, but I'm sure that within, a space of a couple of hours, you'll have sussed it and got the desktop working as you want it. So I'm not going to labour the point of getting it configured is so different. Getting it configured is so different for me because I am not familiar with it. And I suppose the question is, given that I am familiar with other desktops, would I be prepared to move to KDE for several weeks or a month or so on to become an absolute expert at it? Well, part of me thinks that I probably should, given that it's such a popular desktop environment, and that I should probably get to know it and feel that I can come from a base where I can actually critically assess it from probably a more realistic viewpoint. But at the moment, this is just a first look and what I, as a non-KDE user, think of my first impressions of it. Let's go and have a chat. So that was the Kubuntu KDE Plasma Desktop. What do I think of it? Well, first impressions. And this was very much a video about first impressions coming from someone who doesn't use KDE and hasn't taken a look at it for a decade or more. So almost like a new Windows user. Not quite, but almost like a new Windows user coming to Linux. I had some criticisms. It wasn't obvious to me how to do things, but I accept that that may be the case for any new user looking at a new desktop environment. It's clearly functional. It has an army of followers, and I was impressed at how lightweight it was in terms of RAM. It probably uses less than the Mate desktop, and if you have older hardware, that might be a major consideration. It's incredibly configurable, perhaps too configurable. Well, I thought the settings menu was perhaps not quite as clear and straightforward as I would have preferred it to be, but I'm going to withdraw from making too many criticisms about that. I had to do a Google search to figure out how to drag a widget across the desktop, how to change the look and location of the panel, and to remove that little widget in the top right hand corner. But, I'm biased. I'm biased in favour of a different desktop environment, and I'm willing to accept that a new user to the likes of Mate might have just as much trouble. I think I probably owe it to myself and to you guys to use it for a couple of weeks, or to use some version of KDE over the coming weeks. Not necessarily until after Christmas and New Year, but at some point next year, so that I can give more of a considered review of the KDE desktop. But that's it for now. I'm off all of this coming week, so I will do another few videos. We won't be restricted to the one a week. I've also just taken delivery via Amazon of my new Rode Procaster microphone, which I'm looking forward to having a play with. I'm aware that it needs a ton of gain to work, so I've got a little pre-amplifier that fits in line, which should give it a boost. And I'll no doubt be doing a review about that at some point. So guys, for now, you have a great weekend, what's left of it, and I'll speak to you in the week.